to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you once again from the East Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my counterpart, also on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Another great article up on playpicks.com for you guys on a pretty nice Friday night slate for you guys. We are going to have a gift card prop here for you, so make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page to be eligible to jump in those comments and give us the total that we'll offer you guys here in just a minute. And as always, if you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find all those local listings in your area, such as what we're about to get into here, Nate, for the 30th. Let's do it.
It's an 8-game slate, and every game has at least some playoff implications, as the NBA would like it down the stretch here. The Hawks are plus 10 at the Sixers because they're going to be resting most of their key players. The Spurs are plus 4.5 at Celtics. The Wizards minus 7 at the Cavs, who could be without Colin Sexton again. Blazers minus 1.5 at the Nets, who rested Kyrie last night. We're going to have to watch, see if KD sits tonight or what they decide to do. The Magic are now plus 11 at the Grizzlies. The Bucks are minus 5 at the Bulls. They're expected to be without Giannis. The Jazz, without Donovan Mitchell or Conley, are plus 4 at the Suns. And the Kings, coming off an absolute beatdown, are plus 10 at the Lakers. Josh, looking at that, my initial thought was that Memphis is going to handle the Magic. They're coming off a nice little win against those shorthanded Cavs, but this is still a team that stands no chance against a really solid Western Conference team. Memphis does not mess around when they get to face these bad Eastern Conference teams. They haven't in a while, though, right? We targeted them twice when they played the Bulls, took care of business there both times. And in fact, they've covered in 5 of their last 6 against teams that are out of playoff position. They've covered in 10 of their last 13 at home. They've covered in 18 of 25 games against the East. They're 17-12 against the spread after a loss. It's all lining up for Memphis, which is the second best team overall against the spread, to blow out Orlando, the second worst defensive rating this month. Orlando has. They are giving up the third most offensive rebounds per game in that span. Memphis is third in offensive rebounds. And they're giving up around 120 points per game in their last losses. Yes, they held the Cavs offense down. This is a completely different animal, the way John Morant is playing, the way Jonas Valanciunas can bully down low. So a couple things to look at here for angles if you don't necessarily want to just go minus 11 as it sits right now. Jonas getting 17.5 points for his prop. I like that over for sure. I like the over in general because of how much points Orlando's been giving up, and because Memphis could dictate things at home a lot more. They score a ton of fast break points, in fact, most in the league, and they've struggled defensively a little bit. So I think they allow enough to get over what is just 224. You go Grizzlies money line and over, you get plus 130. Again, I mentioned that team total kind of hack. It's 117.5 for Memphis, and they're probably getting over 120 tonight against this poor Magic team that's gone over in 8 of their last 9. Just not much they do well defensively, still missing a lot of guys, including Chuma Okeke, who's having a nice game against the Cavs, definitely contributed to them pulling out that surprising win. This is just a mismatch all over. So just looking for angles to get the Memphis Grizzlies winning and some other value there.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing as this season is coming to a close. The regular season, we're seeing, obviously there's a few teams tanking despite that play-in tournament, as they don't even have a shot at that. The Magic are one of them. We continue to find value with teams like the Grizz, who have stuff to play for and who will continue playing hard down the stretch with solid quality young players. So definitely feel that. No inside presence for Orlando, target JV. I'm with all of that stuff. Another team that I'm going to try to pick on is the team that the Magic just beat in those Cavaliers. As you mentioned, Colin Sexton is questionable, not very likely to play. And they are continuing to miss, Larry Nance Jr., Taurean Prince. You look at what they've done recently, 1-7, both straight up and against the spread in their last 8. I'm not really going to look at any totals here as they take on the Wizards. I know that we like a lot of Wizards overs a lot. But, what the Cavs do well on defense in terms of limiting free throw attempts for their opponents, not allowing second chance points, and really playing at a really slow pace. I'm not really going to eye too much of this, the total here. But I am going to give a quick, Brody appreciation segment here. You look at what the Wizards have done in their last 10, 9-1 straight up and 8-2 against the spread. Our guy's been going crazy, obviously, and what's been awesome is the last 10 games, as we're talking about here. Bradley Beal and Westbrook have both been playing in every single one of those games. That means they've had the most points per game in the league at 123 in that span. They've got the highest percentage points of their paint, points of their points coming in the paint, as well as 2-point field goal attempts, and the total amount of points they score, all inside the paint, all number one in the league in the last 10, as they're really attacking the basket and getting things done around the rim, even without too high quality of big men for them. Russell Westbrook in that time as well, 22 points a game, 11 boards, 11 assists, playing about 36 minutes a game, also throwing a steal and a half. Our guy's going crazy, 7 points against a Cavs team that really feels like they're just giving up entirely. If you watch things like what Kevin Love pulled the other night, just totally giving up on plays. So I feel really good about Washington. We thought they were going to be a decent, top 4 team in the East before, when the season started. They came out incredibly slow. They haven't had their 2 players on the floor until recently, and we see what that's done. So I'm feeling really good about the Wizards right now.
Yeah, look, the Wizards are actually 17-12 against the spread on the road. It's kind of surprising to me. I guess at home they tend to play those shootouts, and that's a little tougher in terms of getting the win or loss result there. But yeah, they've been great against bad teams lately. They've been on a mission. They have their guys back now, and they actually have some defensive presence down low. Alex Len's playing pretty well. Daniel Gafford's been a great addition. I like this every way. They just handled the Cavs by 9 points. They've covered in 3 straight against teams with losing records, and they're over 500 against losing teams. The Cavs are sunk without Colin Sexton.
And before we get too far from there, I did want to not forget that gift card prop. That is going to be what you think Russell Westbrook's total points, rebounds, and assists will be. So as always, make sure you like and subscribe to the page to be able to jump in the comments. Let us know what you think Brody's points, rebounds, and assists will be combined tonight against the lowly Cavs.
Yeah, and going by his props, that's probably sitting at around 50 in terms of the market there. So definitely plenty of numbers to guess. So the Bucks had what I would consider a fluky loss last night for sure. Giannis played 1 minute, tweaked his ankle, and came out. Then they gave up 50 points to Kevin Porter Jr. This is a team that for whatever reason thrives on familiarity. We've seen them struggle against Western Conference teams, especially on the road. But when they play division teams that they know well, they just get it done. I'm not worried about them getting it done without Giannis tonight. When you look at, they're still 5-4 without him, and they actually have a better net rating in those games. And the last time he was out for 6 games, they went 3-3, winning and covering in 2 against non-playoff teams, and then losing 3 against playoff teams. But their division numbers are just staggering, right? They're 9-0 straight up and against the spread against the division this year. They went 13-1 last year. They've won 11 straight games against the Bulls, who are missing Zach LaVine, and that's a much bigger deal than the Bucks missing Giannis. I know they've been competitive lately with Vucevic blowing up. He doesn't necessarily have great numbers against the Bucks, and he's dealing with an abductor injury as well. So the Bulls are 5-11 straight up as home underdogs, and they're 7-25 against winning teams. Bucks are 21-6 now against losing teams. They will bounce back after a loss pretty handily, and I again like points because the Bulls have a 116 offensive rating at home this month. They have been much more reliable in terms of when they have a rest advantage. They're 10-4 against the over, and when they're underdogs, they tend to go over. They're 22-17. Obviously, the Bucks need no invitation to go over. They just put up a combined 280 basically with the lowly Rockets, and the total just sitting at 221. That's exploitable. So again, looking at Bucks cover and and the over, you're getting over plus 200 there. Or if you just want to go Bucks money line, you're still getting pretty good odds.
Yeah, I think you're getting great value there because we just saw the Bucks lose in a huge scoring game to Houston last night. Losing Giannis early, that messes everything up. And I think playing without him, knowing you're not playing with him tonight ahead of time, that's not worth 5 points the way that we've got, the Bulls getting those points tonight. Quick funny storyline: Kevin Porter Jr., as you mentioned, 50 points last night. I saw an amazing tweet that called out how Rockets fans were worried that they were going to lose the essence and legend that was James Harden. Kevin Porter Jr. got suspended one game for going to a strip club and then dropped 50 the next time out. That sounds pretty James Harden-esque, so I thought that was a hilarious storyline there as well. But moving on to the last game that I like tonight, Nate, that Philly and Hawks game, just a repeat of what we saw a couple nights ago when Philly blew out the very shorthanded Hawks, who I think will still be at least somewhat shorthanded totonight. They're definitely not going to have Kevin Huerter, and then you've got Trae Young, Clint Capella, and Bogdanovich, all questionable tonight still. Atlanta's lost their last 5 games by an average of over 9 points, shooting just 50%. So they are getting blown out when they lose as of late. Philly, it's Philly at home. Once again, at home, they're winning by an average of 8.5 points a game when they're home favorites specifically. While we don't know who necessarily is going to play right now for the Hawks, if 2 of those 3 guys I mentioned who are questionable sit, I still like this game at 9 points. It feels chalky, but Philly's got a lot to play for still. And honestly, right now, before I even know exactly who might or might not play for the Hawks, I really like the odds I'm getting on FanDuel of Philly winning by a margin of anywhere from 1 to 10 points. And that gets you plus 180 on your money. If with a spread of 9, you're already looking at a pretty nice, nice line there. So I think 1 to 10 points for Philly tonight is something I feel most comfortable
Where
with.
are they at for 11 to 20 points then?
Yeah, probably a lot better than 180, but I'm feeling pretty good about 1 to 10 with a spread of 9 right now, and no idea if Trae or those guys are going to play.
Yeah, I mean, I would be worried about that just because I think they easily could win by double digits. It looked like, honestly, there's some gamesmanship going on with the Hawks that they basically threw this last game. They didn't play anybody and didn't give any sort of effort. I think they were down by close to 30 by halftime and just kind of let it go. I think maybe they're thinking we could see Philly in the second round if we're lucky enough to make it that way. And, we're not going to show them anything. They probably have looked ahead at the schedule and mapped out like, okay, we can just beat these bad Eastern Conference teams and finish in this position. We don't necessarily have to go all out in games that we just haven't been able to win against winning teams. So yeah, I love Philly at home. Love them to cover.
The only reason I would say they have motivation is I think they would rather play the Knicks in the 4-5 matchup than any of the top 3 seeds in the East, which would include Milwaukee right now. So they do have something to play for if they want to get out of the first round. I do feel you on that. I do also like the fact that recently they've covered against both the Bucks and the Heat shorthanded without Trae Young. As you saw, Lou Williams and Bogdanovich play really well. So there's a possibility it stays close. I think Philly might overlook them a bit after blowing them out. But either way, I think, we're still liking Philly in this one no matter what.
Yeah, and an appealing teaser to put together with one of those other favorites we talked about. Last little quick hit here. The Nets right now are slight underdogs, plus 1.5 at home, where they are 25-7 on the year. And they've gone 5-2 when listed as home underdogs with a plus 8.5 margin of victory. You can not only bet the Nets, you could look at things like the money line and an alternative spread. If they're getting good odds to win by 3 or 4 points, you can get way plus odds there. Just because, Kyrie definitely could play after sitting out the front leg of that back-to-back. There's nothing about Durant sitting at the moment. And if both those guys are out there, they're definitely better than Portland, which has won 2 nice games in a row, but is in the middle of a long road trip and has not fared well against good teams. Otherwise, I think losing 10 of 12 against losing teams prior to that stretch. So I think Brooklyn absolutely could pull it out at home as they try to stay ahead of the Sixers for that one spot.
And this is a prime time spot for Kyrie coming off rest. And if he's going to be relied upon heavily on offense, might be a nice DFS play tonight as well.
Might be a nice segue there, Josh. Kyrie and Dame explosion, perhaps. Or I would look at Dame and Kevin Durant as a stack because they're both just pretty cheap right now. Still waiting on that Dame Lillard explosion, and the Nets will oblige you sometimes, especially at home. With Giannis out, Drew Holiday, great play as well. Bobby Portis, I'm looking at to step up against his former team in Chicago. CD Osman and Isaac Okoro are your values without Sexton, Prince, or Nance for the Cavs. Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson should step up with no Conley or Mitchell. I know they didn't do much because the Jazz just erupted as a team their last time out against those horrible Kings who are playing the Lakers in LA. Like some values there. I like Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder to do what they were brought in to do, right? Is carry the offense on nights where LeBron and AD need to rest. I expect AD to play limited minutes and give way to Montrezl Harrell. Great value play at center tonight.
For sure, a lot to look at in this slightly small slate as of late for this NBA season tonight. But that is all the time that we have for tonight's show. Remember to guess those Brody props tonight, points, rebounds, and assists combined. Jump into the comments. Make sure you're liked and subscribed to that video to be eligible for that gift card. We'll be back with another great show on Monday. And as for this weekend, y'all, happy betting.